blood is in the rocky waters.
Welcome to the House of Focus, Foodland, a limited series podcast where we explore the food industry from a different perspective. In each episode, we look through the lens of a different ecosystem player, including producers, retailers, supply chain, and food tech startups, to add key puzzle pieces and provide a holistic view of the food industry in Europe and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, an aspiring innovator, or simply a curious food enthusiast, join us as we embark on a journey to uncover opportunities, trends, and challenges shaping the future of food.
Trouble, blood is in the rocky waters. Hide away your sons and daughters, eat you alive.
Yeah, cooking will not stop. Cooking will always be there.
Right?
So cooking will always be there, and these meal subscription businesses are just options for people who don't want to cook, rather than you feeling that, oh, I have to cook every single day. Now you have an option not to cook, right? But what you brought up is a very good option. Like another reason why the adoption of Uber versus the adoption of these kinds of services is because cooking is a human activity. It has soul. You're providing for your family, so it's a different kind of service. It's a different kind of comparison between Uber and cooking.
Trouble, blood is in the rocky waters.
Today's episode is Taste of Transformation, a CEO's approach to effortless meals in Romania. We're joined here today by Rami Basiri, CEO of Manj, a house of brands in the home-cooked space delivery in Bucharest. Rami is an expert in both food and tech companies, which puts him into a unique spot to understand the convergence of these fields and potential for change. He was part of the Uber Ops team. Then in 2019, Rami started working in cloud kitchens headed by Uber founder Travis Kalanick, where he launched new markets and scaled the B2B sales team to 50 people in the Middle East. The pandemic has made the adoption of convenient meals skyrocket, but there are still challenges ahead in how consumers across different markets and cultures prefer to eat their meals. Stay tuned because we will talk about the food delivery dynamic landscape and what it takes to scale a food tech company. We will discuss about the mindset shift needed and its catalyst to adopt new ways of planning home meals. I'm sure you will find this very exciting. I know I have. Rami, I'm super happy to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story?
So, where to start? I started my career in oil and gas. I was living in Dubai back then in 2014. It was a Fortune 500 company. I did that for a year, and then I realized that those big companies are not for me. And this is where I decided to join Uber, which back then, it wasn't as known as today. Back then, it was some people knew it and thought it was a cool opportunity for me. Some people had no idea what Uber is. I jumped on board. It was in the operations team, based out of Dubai, but kind of worked in the entire Middle East. And we worked on scaling and launching the different markets of Uber in that region. So I worked in operations, which is everything related to let's say the driver side. It's onboarding drivers, making sure the quality of the rides are good, pricing of the ride, and everything that has to do with the driver side that impacts the customer experience. And then in around 2019, the company grew a lot. And I saw, because obviously Uber's growth was huge between 2015 to 2019. And so I decided to jump out of Uber, which kind of became big and hierarchical, into a smaller company that had the potential to grow again.
So you seem to really like this sort of startup, scale-up stage of growing a business, right?
Yes. I love those because I like to feel like I'm having impact. So at Uber, when we were a small team, we felt we were doing impact every day. And then when it grew too much, you had a lot of approvals to go through. You had a lot of hierarchy. And that's when when I started feeling that I wasn't as impactful as I'd like to be as in the Uber early days. And that's when I felt that I need to jump on board a new opportunity, which at the time was also very small, which is a company called Cloud Kitchens. So Cloud Kitchens is a concept that came from the US. It was scaling in the Middle East, and it was headed or led by the Uber founder, Travis Kalanick. And so I joined the company in 2019, very small team, also like worked with them and scaled the operations in the Middle East. And obviously in 2020, when the pandemic came, the demand for this kind of business
Boomed, I imagine.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the company grew again.
It was a very different company, right? Moving from actually all of your endeavors, I would say you are different, but in a sense, what you were doing, kind of growing the business was all
Yes,
the
I was lucky. Like you would say, I was lucky. Uber, I got lucky because I joined right before it started to grow, or at the beginning of the growth. And Cloud Kitchens, I was pre-growth period. And the reason why I got lucky there is because I joined the team that moved from Uber to Cloud Kitchens. I kind of moved with them because we knew that the leadership over there, having done it in Uber, there's a chance that they might do it again with Cloud Kitchens, and rightly so. So when the pandemic came and the scale came, the company grew very fast, and we onboarded a lot of people. The company grew tenfold. Let's say. 2021 came, the company became too big again for me, and I decided to again join a smaller company. At the time, I got the opportunity to join this company, which is called Manj in Romania. At the time, it wasn't called Manj, now it is. So I got the opportunity to join, very small team. I like the mission, I like what they're doing, I like the product. It was a nice personal experience change for me, changing from the Middle East and trying something new in Eastern Europe. It was like a new adventure. So I'm like, let's give it a try.
Oh, great. Yeah. So now since you joined Manj, right? How is that cultural shift or this industry shift once again been? What have you learned since you came here?
So being in Cloud Kitchen, we had something to do with the food space because we were selling restaurants who came to our kitchens to improve their operations. So I kind of had an idea about food, but this company here is completely about food. So I had to learn operations and production and how cooking happens, the raw material, new recipes. Like I went into the weeds of the production. And so that was a very exciting part. But also, having been in Uber and Cloud Kitchens, I was exposed to one part of the business, which is the operations and launching, but I had no idea what was going on in the financing. I had no idea what's going on in cash flow, in marketing, in sales, and in a lot of other departments. And so being in this small company, it was a great experience to get a well-rounded view of all the pieces and components of the business and how they all work together.
Oh, that's very interesting. And I'm sure you got the first seat into, quickly getting your hands dirty and learning about everything that has to do with running a company.
Learn the hard way.
Challenges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really cool. So actually that brings me to the next question, because it's something I ask everybody. So what's your relation to food? Why food? What makes you passionate about it?
So I love food, right? I really enjoy food. When I go to a restaurant or when I do something at home, I look at the food and I'm very excited to devour that food. Like this is my
yeah, that's
food,
very
right?
much my style as well.
Yeah.
Do you share food or not? Or
I
do you prefer to have your own plate?
I prefer to have my own plate. I still share just so I can try from different pieces of the of the table, but I still love my food. But equally, I'm a practical person. I'm a very practical person, so I don't, unfortunately, I would say, I didn't get the time to learn how to cook very well and cook food for myself, because I always favored, like, let's say, efficiency or being practical and doing other stuff with the time I would have done with cooking. And so I have a bittersweet feeling. When I do cook something and I learn it, I'm like, wow, okay, I really like how I just did that, and I'm enjoying it. But at the same time, I also like it just as a hobby and not something I really want to do, right? And so me being in Manj, which we'll talk about later, but one of the things that we want to do is we want to help people who don't have time to cook to get their house in order by, let's say, outsourcing this chore of cooking. So me being in Manj and having this mentality of really loving food, but not having the time to cook, puts me in a good position for me to, let's say, work the mission.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. Sounds like you're the perfect customer for your own company.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Good. Yeah, that's great. So I'm really curious when we talk about food convenience in general, the food convenience puzzle piece, because you've seen it from a lot of different angles. If we look at this puzzle piece, what does the landscape look like today, right? We obviously have pure food delivery companies like Bolt Foods or Uber Eats. We have ghost kitchens, we have food subscription meals, we have brands like Manj. Tell us a little bit more about the landscape, the different types of businesses in it.
Okay. This is a huge industry and a huge ecosystem. I'll try to simplify it in simple terms. The two big categories that exist are the on-demand food and the planned food. And obviously on-demand is much, much bigger. It's like 95%, and the planned food space is more like 5 to 10%. So what is the on-demand? On-demand is the food that you order today and you get it in 30 minutes. Like you order it now, you get it in 30 or 40 minutes, whether that's on Glovo or Taz or Bolt Food. And in the on-demand space, the restaurants who are putting their shop on those apps basically are restaurants that you see on the street, and they realize that I can make some additional orders and money and making my kitchen more efficient by putting myself on the app and delivering to the consumer, and obviously increasing awareness as well. And so those are the restaurants that are also doing on demand. Now, an interesting insight as well is in that on demand space, there are more and more restaurants that are having more than one brand.
Okay.
Because they put their brand on the app and they realize it's making some money. So what if they create a new brand and put it on the app and cook it from the same kitchen?
And would they then cook the same thing, or would they cook different things?
They would cook different things from the same ingredients. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
You can, let's say, a sushi restaurant. It's a sushi restaurant. You go on the street, you see it, you go inside, you eat sushi. And then they realize that they actually have the same ingredients as a poke bowl. So why not create a new brand that is purely focused on poke? You put it on the app, and now they have twice as likely the chance of them being clicked on the app, because customers are just scrolling, and then they see sushi and then they see poke. So you're increasing the chances of you. So what makes them stop there and not have 3 or 4 brands? Or restaurants that are, let's say, very busy in lunch and dinner times, why don't they open up a new brand, put it on the app that serves breakfast? So you're creating more efficiency and utilization for your kitchen, which ends up improving your business.
All right. And I would imagine the profit margin improves significantly the more brands you have.
Exactly.
Right?
The more brands you have, the more, let's say, revenue you get. And so the same rent and labor structure that you have for one brand is now split across more and more orders. So the profit per order or per dish becomes much, much higher.
Very, very interesting. Conceptually, it's how you scale a restaurant, I guess, without expanding to new location or franchising it or whatnot. Okay.
Exactly. That's how you can grow without having to spend to grow. Right?
All right.
So that's going back to the on-demand space. So this is how the on-demand space functions. But then you have the cloud kitchens. And this, because you mentioned cloud kitchens, and this is, let's say, the infrastructure layer. So it's not a consumer-facing thing. It's more of a B2B infrastructure. Cloud kitchen is essentially a property that was split into 20 kitchens of 20 square meter each or 15 square meter each. And each one of those is leased to different restaurants and operators. And so imagine a restaurant that has a big space on a high street, but they realize that a lot of their orders are coming from delivery. So you can just go ahead to a new 20 square meter kitchen, you reduce the rent significantly, you even reduce labor because you don't need waiters anymore, and you do pure delivery from there. So even more efficient. So this is the cloud kitchen is a new concept that came to improve the infrastructure for those operators that are delivering purely through the apps.
Well, very interesting. So just help me understand, because I assume we can see different sort of companies and businesses offering cloud kitchens or kind of growing this concept. Is there a lot of innovation in the type of business model they do? Do they, for example, take the burden of, just having the space, operating the space? Do they get involved in taking a chunk out of the ingredients that they provide or the delivery? How far?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. And the answer is there's no one right answer, because I've seen a lot of cloud kitchen businesses in the world, and each one decided to, let's say, carve out their own way of doing things. Some of them are purely real estate. All they do is just give you the space and you do the rest. Some have taken up a little bit more where they realize that they can sell you or aggregate raw material from the different operators over there and get you better prices. And some of them even go the extra extent and lease you labor and help you operate the kitchen itself. And so there's a big spectrum of operations within the cloud kitchen model.
Okay. So then if we look at the different types of players, right? We have something like Taz or something that aggregates, multiple different points, restaurants, food sources, so to say, and brings them to consumers. Do you see a lot of innovation in terms of how they start to do their own? Or, is it, we know that we have restaurants who deliver themselves, but of course they don't have the audience that something like Uber Eats has. How do you see growth for these sort of businesses? Is it that they grow just by adding multiple restaurants, or do they grow by doing more of the things as well?
Okay, so you mean operators that are, let's say, a one shop over here, how can they grow? So one, they grow by first putting themselves on the apps because that's a major source of revenue, but also they take up a big portion of your sales.
They take a very
right?
big chunk and very large commissions, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's squeezing operators, but at the same time, that percentage, you can justify it as marketing plus delivery. Because if you do your own marketing and your own delivery, then it will probably cost you the same thing, right?
You won't reach the volumes that you can reach.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yes. And so operators, the chances of their success is putting themselves on the app, increasing the number of brands that they have. And then if cash flow or capital wise they can, then they can expand within different areas of the city, ideally with a cloud kitchen, if those cloud kitchen infrastructures exist. I know they exist here in Bucharest. There's a few of them over here. So if a city is equipped with a lot of cloud kitchens, that it makes it much easier for operators to expand as a plug and play model where you don't have to spend tens of thousands or more to set up shop for a new place. You can just go rent the kitchen, set up shop very cheaply, and then kick off your presence and awareness in a new area that customers are not exposed to over there.
Okay. And where does Manj fit in all of this, right? So in this little landscape of different options, where do you guys fit there?
So I started with telling you that there are two segments, right? So this is what we just talked about is the on-demand. This is the on-demand space, which is, there's a lot happening there with the apps, the restaurants, the infrastructure. And then you have let's say the 5-10% remaining of the food delivery space is in the planned meal. The planned meal is not food that you get in 30 minutes. It's food that you have to plan ahead for. And those include meal subscription businesses or businesses like Manj. So meal subscription business is a business where you, let's say, order for the next 5 days or 10 days or a weekly delivery, and you have a peace of mind. You have the food, let's say, settled, and you don't have to think about ordering again. With Manj, so what we do with Manj, so Manj is a house of brands, as you mentioned, in the home cooked food delivery. Our flagship brand is called Wala Kubanotels. So Wala has been offering for the past more than a decade Romanian traditional food cooked in large family size. Like when you order, you don't order a portion of 300 grams, you order 2 kilograms or 2.5 kilograms of soup and sarmale and salad, right? And you have food covered for the family for the next few days. So it's not a meal subscription, but it works like a meal subscription in the sense of you have food in the fridge, like when your mother or grandmother cooked for you, you have it in the fridge ready as a leftover. And when you're hungry, you just heat it up, eat it, and then.
And is the target market for that home owners and households and families, or is it more catering style, or do you?
Yes, so it's like our target customer is mothers and families, because mothers are typically the ones that are providing food or cooking for the family, right? And a lot of times they get busy, or the family gets busy, or the husband gets busy, and they don't have time to cook anymore. And that's when they come towards services in the plant space, including Wala Kubanotels and Manj, because then they can get the home cooked food personalized. I forgot to mention personalized, because we personalize it to your taste. So You get the food personalized to your taste, delivered to your house without you spending hours cooking, and you are still providing this good traditional home-cooked food, just like the food you used to eat when you were young, without spending the time.
All right. So then it's really Romanian food that that you guys are delivering.
Yes,
With
yes.
wala kunate.
Yes, I would say we have a lot of international dishes as well, but it's all food that is consumed and popular here in Romania. Some are very Romanian, some are like quesadilla, for example. And a lot of people still eat it here, so we do provide.
Oh yeah, I know that people here love their quesadilla. We have always some patterns that my friends, whenever we go out to a restaurant, they keep ordering the same
Quesadilla.
thing. Yeah, or the schnitzels
Or
as
the
well.
schnitzels.
We love those.
Exactly. Escalope.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these kinds of food.
Is it the challenge too? So when you aim for scalability, of course, but then you want to customize, right? And we know that consumers want things more and more customized to their taste and need. Is it, how much can you really customize when it comes to it?
So that's a very good question. And so for us, consumers first, right? If customers want personalization, we try to provide that as much as possible while trying to scale. So we try to find the balance where we are still offering consumers what they want and what they need, while figuring out what we can do internally, operations-wise, for us to be able to scale the model while offering those personalized. So I cannot say it's easy to always do that, because as you scale and as you grow, you cannot maintain the same, let's say, flexibility and agility. But because we know consumers come to us for the personalization, not all of them, but a lot of them come to us for the personalization, we make sure that we maintain these elements of, let's say, customer preference.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about subscription models? I know that this, subscription boxes, so that you have a meal plan meals and meal kits and all sorts of things. Like, there was one in Germany. I'm trying to remember.
HelloFresh?
HelloFresh, exactly.
Yes.
So I had a lot of friends when I lived there who were using it. I personally struggled because I like to get creative in the kitchen. But that's just me. I'm probably just not in their target market.
Okay.
How do you see that evolving in general in the European market?
So HelloFresh is a very impressive story. They started as meal kits. They beat Blue Apron, which was the number one player in the US, and now they are globally number one meal kit business. So it's a very successful story that I always look up to. If we look at different industries in the world, if you look at furniture and apparel industry, the size of those markets is around $700 billion globally, whereby 35% of that is online penetration, which means that 35% of the 700 billion is purchased online, while the rest is offline, retail, brick and mortar. The media industry is around 2.5 trillion, and 75% or 77% is online. Why? Because you have the likes of Google and Facebook who took over media, and most people are now spending money on Google and Facebook. And so you only have 23% left for the traditional
media. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The food at home industry is kind of the total amount of money that people spend to cook at home. And that's $7 trillion. It's the biggest by far, because that's what people do every day, 3 times a day.
Kind of need to do it, whether we like it or not.
You do it 3 times a day.
So whether we do it efficiently or not.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
So it's 7 trillion, which is by far the largest one, and the penetration rate is 6%.
Okay.
And so
lots of room to grow is what you're saying.
Exactly. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to grow fast, because cooking is a deeply embedded activity for centuries, but it's bound to grow, and it is growing year after year. And Romania is not even at 6%. Romania is probably around 1 or 2%. So not only is there room for Romania to grow in terms of online penetration of the food at home space, but also this entire industry globally is growing to catch up with the other industries, slowly but surely. And the industry that is doing this online penetration are the meal kit and the meal subscription businesses, because this is like, I wouldn't consider, if someone is ordering pizza on a Friday night, I wouldn't consider them replacing the home cooking. They're more indulging in a meal. Instead of going to a restaurant, they like to indulge in a pizza. But the plant space is more replacing the cooking, because you're subscribing, or you're committing to a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week period where food is coming to your home and you don't have to cook. So it's replacing the raw material and the time you would have spent to cook at home. Now you're doing it with the other.
So I think this is a key thing you just mentioned, right? Because in one sense, it's wonderful from a business point of view, from a business model point of view. You reach scalability, you can have recurring revenue, you have all of this new areas of growth. Do you see that the consumers are ready for that? Do you see, that, okay, maybe Romania, but also in general, in adopted such things? Or do you believe they still have a reluctance? So where is the market right now?
That's another big question. So people are adapting globally, right? There are countries where this is happening faster than other countries. And there are elements in each country that define how fast this penetration will go. In countries, and I think the two main things that are at play here is, one, the disposable income. Like, it's how much income people have for them to feel that they can spend on additional stuff beyond their real basics. So that's one, right? And if the disposable income in a country is high, then they have more luxury and option to think, I can outsource this. While the disposable income is low, it becomes harder. That's one. Two is the working culture of that country. There are countries that are like workaholics, and there's the people over there work a lot. US, even Dubai and the UAE is another one. So people work a lot. The culture there is just, you work a lot, because if you think about it, Dubai has a lot of expats, and people in Dubai are expats who moved from their home countries to Dubai to work, like to work and live. But they go there because big companies are there, the HQs are there, and there's a big hiring going on there for good positions. So people go there to work, and so when you work there, you get to spend long hours to prove yourself and stay successful and so on. And so you don't have time to cook, right? And that's why the penetration rate of countries like Dubai is very fast.
They're also very keen on convenience, right? So they're very quick to order everything online.
Exactly. Yeah. Because of this reason, because the culture is more efficiency, work. I don't have time to do anything. I just want to focus on work, focus on health. I want time to go to the gym, because otherwise I cannot function. So if I want to do all of that, I need to afford outsourcing my chores. Chores can be cleaning the house. Chores can be mowing the yard. What's the word? Mowing. So it can be a lot of things, and one of them is cooking, which is one that takes up a lot of time from your day or week.
I really want to talk about the mindset shift needed to adopt food convenience. This is an often overlooked but underestimated topic. I believe it's very important, because often, no matter how great technology or the solution itself is, until the market is ready to adopt it, it's kind of difficult to see real scalability. So I, for example, personally, I love to cook, and I might struggle to commit to, ordering food for the entire week, because I like to kind of keep the option to be able to cook or innovate in the kitchen. How do you see that? Do you see the market being split between different types of personas?
Okay, so let's spend some time talking about you.
All right.
So, because you're a great example, right? You love cooking, and today you don't see yourself going for these kinds of services. So if we try to understand your mindset, we can try to understand both together what it takes to do this mindset shift in people.
Perfect. I love it. Let's do it.
All right. So how often have you been cooking? How long have you been cooking? For a long time?
I would say so. Probably around 12 years or so.
Okay. And is your primary source of food your cooking? Like the majority of your food during the week?
No.
Okay.
I'm also very busy. So I love to cook on my own terms, when I want and how I want and for whom I want. So
okay. So and when you cook for how many meals? 1, 2 meal prep for a week?
No, I don't prep so much. So for me, it's a hobby. So when I cook, I like to cook to relax and to create something new. So sometimes I plan, like, let's say if I do a big dinner and I invite a lot of people over, I would cook, like I would make a Vietnamese evening and make a lot of stuff and do a whole thing around it.
Okay.
But also I would just maybe cook once or even twice a day sometimes, just something nice for fun. But I might also have an entire week where I don't cook anything because I'm busy, and then I would just order food.
Okay, when you say order food,
I would open Uber Eats, Bolt food or something similar and order.
For like every time? Like
every time.
At lunch, you just open it and you scroll down.
Yes, it's
Don't
really
you get
bad.
tired?
I know.
Don't you get tired of like the paradox of choice? Every time you open the app, you just scroll endlessly.
It's true, I do.
Okay, and don't you sometimes also feel, because I get that, sometimes you wait to the last minute, you're so hungry, you really want the food fast, you find the pizza in front of you, and then you kind of become a little bit unhealthier with your orderings because of
you wait
your last
so long
minute.
that you just order that extra something, or you make the unhealthy choice.
Does that happen, or?
Very little, and I think I'm even if when it does, it's fine. I do so much sport and I eat very healthy anyway, so it's not the...
What's your go-to restaurant? You have a few that you always order from?
I have a couple. I eat Thai or Vietnamese.
Okay.
Those are my go-to, or like a salad, something, or soup, that kind of stuff.
Did you ever experience a meal subscription or some sort of meal planning before, coming from the outside?
Oh, not really.
Okay.
So I'm clearly not an early adopter, but I've had friends who do it, and I kind of, with HelloFresh, I was like, well, you order it and then you cook it and you follow the recipe. I'm like, follow the recipes, I following rules in general, so no.
I'll do my own recipe.
Yeah. So there's that, but I think what I've done, so when I used to live in Berlin or in Cologne, I would pre-order some stuff on, like, from the supermarket to arrive home, or Amazon or something like this, so that I get the basics that I can do something with. So some sort of prep would happen.
Okay. So in your case, it's more about the awareness of the convenience that you would get. So we as in the industry, gotten to you in the sense of convincing you that this is something worth trying and something that can impact your life in a positive way if you decide to adopt it for a week, let's say. And obviously there are different categories, like HelloFresh, it's a cook and eat. There are other meal subscription that are ready to eat, like it's just heat and eat. So cook and eat is still something for you to do. Like you can't order it and eat it, you will need to order it, and then...
It's kind of an experience.
It's a nice experience.
It's a lifestyle sort of choice.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you had the option to order and the food is ready in your fridge, so you can eat whenever you want, and you don't have to think about Glovo and opening up the app and waiting 30 minutes and to go through all of that process for a week, you might feel the benefits of these convenience apps. So I think the mindset shift that people that we would need to get there is trial. I think trial is very important. Like getting awareness and getting people to be aware of the benefits is the first try.
So the first bottleneck to get someone like me, say, is one of the personas, right?
Yes.
The difficult to convince customer because they think they know better.
It seems so.
All right. Is to get them to try it once in order to prove.
It's communication, marketing, awareness of the benefits, and then a first-time trial.
And do I represent a persona of kind of a large customer cluster? Do you see a lot of people like me, or how do you see the market divvied up?
So the fact that, let's say, Romania is about 2% penetration, this means there's 98% left in the market who are not...
like me or worse.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so you have all kinds of people. You have the people who just don't want to let go of them cooking for their children. Like this is something that they learn from their mothers that, okay, I need to provide for my children. I need to be the one cooking for my children. This is one type. Then you have the other type who half the time don't feel that they need to save time, and or at least don't see the benefit yet because they have the time and they just do the cooking themselves. You have people who in Romania, that's also another interesting one. You have a lot of people who get their food from their mother, even if they're adults and they have families, they still get a lot of food from their mothers. That's also another type of people who don't feel the need because the food
Is there.
is there. But if you think about
And who would say no to?
Yeah, exactly, your mother's food, and in bulk, in the fridge, ready for you whenever you eat it. But the people who don't have this option and don't have time to cook, these are the people who are, let's say, either users of these services or potential users of these services once they are more aware of the existence of these services.
I see from the look you think I belong to that category.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Oh yeah, you're really good at sales. I might consider trying it. No, I think I can see in theory the benefits, right?
Yes.
As long, you see, my mind is already going like, okay, well, maybe I can still freeze some of it and not have it every week, but every now and again. And then I can still cook when I want, and when I don't want, I have that backup option.
Yes,
or
something
So
like this. Yes.
I guess there are hybrid versions for
Yes.
people like me.
And that's the first step, right? The first step is getting you to try.
Mm-hmm.
But the real, most important step is getting you to come again. And that's where you need magic inside all the operators of these meal subscription services to provide the best kind of experience at a very attractive price.
Mm-hmm.
And what's a good experience? A good experience is you going on the website or the app, having a very smooth experience, seeing a wide variety of food that you'd like to order from, then making that order and getting the food delivered on time during an interval that you of your liking. Food tasting good, of course, that's the most basic thing. Food tasting good and consistent over time. If you run into a problem, you have a customer service that is delightful to speak to and to fix your problem. So if you go through all this experience while saving yourself time, and then at a very attractive price where you feel that, oh, that's a good deal. Like, I'm paying this much money and I'm getting this much food for the week and I have this excellent service. I'm going to do it again and again until I get bored, and then I'll take a pause and then come again. And so this is where the real magic of the penetration. So the penetration is not only about the mindset shift. It's a mindset shift to get you to try, but it's about how to get you to come again with the best experience and price possible.
In terms of business model,
For us or general?
Well, I guess generally
General,
for a
okay.
company like yours,
Yes.
right? Do you see that the customers adopt subscription models, for example, right now we're in the stage of awareness adoption, and once proof is in the pudding, only then the customers come back and you could set up something like a recurring revenue model.
Okay. I think it's happening at the same time, right? You have
Okay.
the early adopters who got to know the service and now they're subscribers, so they're on a path. But then on another path, you have all the education of the market of the people who are not aware of your services to come and try you. And so those are on a different timeline than those guys. Those guys are already subscribers. So you still have, let's say, a big portion of the market who is aware and already subscribed and are repeat customers, and you have a whole large customer segment
Untapped
that have
potential. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have this graph, but let's say in 3D, because you have one layer of that graph where people are already aware and adopted and have adopted it, and you have another layer where you have people who are still in the very early or even pre because they haven't heard of it.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does make sense. And when you think about the different trends that you see here in innovation, do you see, growth coming from providing meals to more people, obviously, right? Or providing more than food, or what sort of growth opportunities do you see out there?
Okay. So I think it's about more food to more people, right? Because there is the untapped market that you just mentioned. So there's a lot of people that you want to get into the market. And then you have each person you can actually see with data how many times people order from you. So you can see that they order from you, let's say once a week, and once a week means, I don't know, that's 3 or 4 meals for them and the family. So you can see that we are providing, let's say, 2-3 meals per week for that family. And so our target is how do you grow the number of people, but also how can I capture 10 meals per week from that family, two lunches at like 2 meals per day, five times a day. So it's about how can I do both? How can I reach more people, and how can I convince them to do more food, but all in food. Like for now, it's all about food for us to increase the penetration of this food at home industry.
So if we think about consumer convenience, right? That's a general topic. You're in a unique position, I believe, to talk about that because, Uber in a sense is also a convenience cell or partially so. And then cloud kitchens, whether it's in a B2B environment or both B2B and B2C, again, and now with Manj, do you see the same sort of pattern in how consumers start to adopt convenient products across different industries and different technologies?
Okay. I need to think about that. I would say that the adoption for Uber would have been much faster.
Okay, why is that?
Because Uber came as a solution to the taxi industry. And the taxi industry is, let's say, one of those industries that are not innovative, not providing the best service because they thought or they felt that, okay, we are here to stay. People, like, they have to take us, like, we are here for granted and there's no one that can do anything about it. So they don't have to compete for the best prices. They don't have to provide the best experience because it's taxi industry. And then when Uber came, they offered a much better experience for consumers at a cheaper price. And so it's a no-brainer for people
to. So the benefit was very easy to spot.
Exactly.
Okay.
For us, it's the same thing. The benefit is there, but it's not as easy to spot because the cooking, the people when they do cooking at home, a lot of them like this activity. A lot of them are reluctant to let's say, get rid of this activity and someone else does it for them. And so they need to try it, or they need to be more convinced for this penetration to go faster. While with Uber, it's a no-brainer. Once you see the app and the experience, you're like, I need to try it. And when you try it, you're like, okay, I don't want to. So I'm not getting into another taxi ever again.
I guess it's also a more emotional area, isn't it? Right. So with Uber or Bolt or equivalent, you don't really have a loyalty towards, as a consumer, towards one or another. When it comes to food, there's an entire beautiful or less beautiful, depending on the case, baggage that comes with it, right? You were mentioning mothers cooking, right? People enjoy to cook. It's kind of a very natural experience for us. So then I guess probably a more hybrid model is something more achievable for a big chunk of the population, right? Where they still cook. Because we do see a lot of trends towards continuing to cook or increasing the amount.
Yeah, cooking will not stop. Cooking will always be there.
Right? So
cooking will always be there. And these meal subscription businesses are just options for people who don't want to cook. Rather than you feeling that, oh, I have to cook every single day. Now you have an option not to cook. Right? But what you brought up is a very good option. Like another reason why the adoption of Uber versus the adoption of these kinds of services is because cooking is a human activity. It has soul. You're providing for your family. So it's a different kind of service. It's a different kind of comparison between Uber and cooking. And more so in Romania. In other countries, more individualistic societies where you don't have this culture of me, I'm cooking for my family, or let's sit on a dinner table and have food with the family all together.
Experience.
So you have less or faster penetration in these kinds of markets because people don't have the same feeling as they do here.
Yeah, well, I wonder if it overlaps with the consumer purchasing power in some of the Western countries.
Yes, I don't know if there's a correlation or coincidentally, but yes.
Okay, very interesting. So you've obviously lived in quite a few different places and you've seen the culture there. Originally, you're from Lebanon, so you also come from a culture where food is very important around the dinner table, I guess. How would you see the differences in terms of how people consume their food and how much they use services such as, delivery, cloud kitchens, subscription boxes, etc.?
So as I mentioned before, in Dubai, the penetration rate is faster because people are more oriented towards convenience, higher disposable income, individualistic society. This is another point because there's a lot of expats. There's no lineage of families there, like grandmother and then mother, and then this doesn't exist over there. Like you can barely see a whole family line living in Dubai because that's just how this city was built. Unless they're Emiratis, like locals, then yes. But more than 80% of the population is expats, and so that holds true. What I'm saying. In Lebanon is very similar to here. They are also like family oriented. We cook from our hearts to the families, and so the penetration over there would have been slower if those services existed. But those services don't exist in let's say in large quantities. I've heard of one or two services that are providing these, like meal subscription, but it's still an underdeveloped market. And even in Romania, I would say in Romania, it's still not a very developed market. When I was living in Dubai from 2014 to 2020, 2021, I've seen a huge, let's say, growth in restaurants and the number of these kinds of services. And so I'm seeing here, I'm seeing similar signs, but just not as aggressive. And I think this market here in Romania is bound to have more growth in that sector. And the more services and more companies there are that are providing these excellent experiences and great communication to the consumer, then this will also help shift the consumer mindset to adopt more of these services.
So Rami, I was just wondering when it comes to what consumers are ready to adopt before they commit to, say, a subscription for a food box that comes every day for the rest of their life. If they're more willing to adopt something that is an intermediary step, say, I don't know, they plan to go on a diet and for the duration of 2 months or 3 months, they might go for something before they reach something else. So how do you see the market specifically here in Romania and the readiness of the consumers to adopt different things?
Okay, so what you said is very interesting because there are different models of meal subscription.
Okay, tell us about that.
So I didn't want to go into too much details before because that's just going too granular, but within meal subscription, you can find two main types. You have the type that works like Netflix, where you press a button, you subscribe, and then every week you have money going out of your card, and then you have food coming into your doorstep. You open the door, you find the box that has food for the entire week. Let's say 10 meals. So you put that box in the fridge, and every day you take a casserole, you put it in the microwave or oven, and then you eat it. You have another type of meal subscription that you choose the number of days that you want to order. So you can go for a week, right? And then you get a certain number of discount, let's say 5%. If you go for 2 weeks, you get more. If you go for 4 weeks, you get even higher discounts. So they incentivize you to prolong the period by adding the number of discounts. Those kinds of services, they don't offer you a box every day they come to you with a bag or a box on your doorstep
for that day.
For that day. So every day you open the door and you find a bag that you consume during the day, and then tomorrow you have another bag, right? And so for people to get accustomed to these services and to try them off, the second type that I mentioned, they can actually go for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. So there are actually trial periods for them to understand how the service exists without the benefit of the discount, right? Unless the company is providing those discounts, but otherwise without the benefit of the discounts because they're going for a low number of days. In our company, for example, we are offering food in bulk for a few days, right? You order 3 or 4 casserole, each one for 2 kilograms or 2.5 kilograms. So you have enough food for the next 4 or 5 days for the entire family. And so you can do this order once, right? And give it a try. And if you like it, then you can proceed to ordering more. And eventually we want to go meal subscription, because you order once, you like it, and then you don't want to keep doing the same ordering experience every single time. Then you click a button and then it becomes more automated, let's say.
And would you then eat the same thing every day, or would you have different things that you...
It should be different things.
Okay.
Again, each company operates differently, but for a company to be successful, they need to offer as much variety as possible. Why? Because the customer gets bored after some time. If they get bored, they can go take a pause, and then they can come back again. And the more variety you have, the less boredom you're building to the consumer, and the lower the chances of them taking a pause, so you keep them in for longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do these weekly subscriptions, a company should have, like HelloFresh has more than 500-600 recipes, right? Some businesses here have 200-300, 400 recipes. And when you have this number of recipes, then you have the luxury to offer customers many recipes throughout the week that they can choose from, without them feeling that they are repeating.
And they're bored.
Yes,
with that.
because if they get bored, that's not the...
It defeats the purpose. Yeah. Okay. So, Rami, I'm going to ask you now a few questions that I ask all guests. And the reason for that is I'm trying to map out the different views and the different perspectives from the different parts of the ecosystem in the food industry, and see what risks they see, what challenges, what opportunities they see in the market, how they see things changing and growing. So I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this one. The first question is, what do you see in your niche market? So food convenience, generally speaking, what do you see as the biggest risks and the biggest challenges? What could disrupt it? What is changing?
Okay, so the economy is one, right? And what we've seen in the past 3-4 years is a testament to that, because what I was mentioning before, the penetration rate is still low. And so people still perceive these services as nice to have, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's an economic problem or a recession, or the disposable income is going lower, or because the taxes are going higher, so also like regulatory here, then the way people see these kinds of services, they would immediately just remove them, because this is one way how they can save money from their pocket, right?
All right. So it's kind of a must-have versus nice to have.
Yes. And as long as this is the mindset, economic fluctuations or economic downturns will have an impact on the number of, let's say, activity or traction in all the meal subscription services that are providing meal, let's say, convenience, right? And we've seen that in COVID, things spiked, right? And about a couple of years ago, when the restrictions opened up, and there was also the war in Ukraine, and many things contributed to people feeling that, okay, maybe we should reduce on that, because now my disposable income needs to be allocated not only towards food, but also to traveling, because I can travel again, to restaurants, because I can go out. And so the disposable income available for people, which is impacted by regulations and economic fluctuations, is a big, let's say, point in the risks and challenges.
What about, so I guess in addition to inflation and all of these factors that obviously, impacted, what about sustainability and, kind of people's awareness of that, and the carbon footprint of transportation and all of that?
So that's a very good point, because let's say you're cooking for your family, right? You go to the supermarket and you buy the ingredients to cook, but you cannot buy exactly the ingredients that you need. So if you want, let's say, soy sauce, you need to buy a whole bottle, right? If you want rice, you need to buy a whole bag, and you will use them. And sometimes there will be waste that will be unused, and the expiry date will come and you have to throw it away. So one, you are throwing away food, so that's not good for your pocket, because that's money off of your pocket, and that's not good for the environment, because you're wasting resources that could have been used more efficiently. Two, utilities, right? When you're cooking, you're consuming electricity and gas. if you have 10 houses cooking, they're all utilizing electricity and gas, right? If you have one company that is providing for these 10 houses and it is utilizing gas and electricity, it's much, much more efficient and is much more, let's say, green for the environment by having one, not to mention the money that is saved over there. So waste and utilities, and also the transportation, because when you want to cook at home, you need to go to the supermarket, bring food, and go back home. So if everyone's doing that, so also there is some inefficiencies in the carbon footprint. So if you put all of these together, having these companies provide these services and centralizing the utilization of these resources.
The resources is in theory more efficient.
Exactly.
So Rami, when we look at the convenient food space, do we see any pressure from governments, any regulation, any pressure to become more green, to reduce carbon footprint when it comes to packaging, when it comes to transportation?
I wouldn't say there is a particularly pressure from regulations. Maybe there are a few smaller things, but not a big impact for us to change the way we operate. You do see some companies taking up on them to become more green by either delivering through electric cars like Sesamo, for example, or other companies that are doing green packaging. Like, for example, on our side, we are doing biodegradable packaging. So it's up to each company how they want to do it. And a lot of companies use this as their, let's say, communication or marketing. And that's how they like to sell, appeal to some customers. But no, I wouldn't say that there's particularly any pressure coming from companies or regulation or the government.
So right now in Romania, you would say the companies themselves are driving the change and sort of deciding whether to use it as a marketing activity or for sustainability reasons, rather than being forced to do so today.
Yes, I would say so.
Do you see that changing in Europe in general in the upcoming years?
In Europe, I would say it's like in the West, France and Germany. I'm assuming they have more regulations to work by, right? Like HelloFresh, I follow their news, so I see a lot of green initiatives they're coming up with. I don't know if that's the influence of the government or that's them coming up with them, but I'm assuming countries over there are more, or regulations are forcing some companies to become a little bit more green than what they are.
Yeah.
And I would assume that this would come here at some point. Like I saw a recent regulation about the water plastic bottles, how you have to pay a half a lei extra and then retrieve it after you put it back in the recycling. So there are these kinds of initiatives that are coming up, but I think it's slowly being rolled out, and it's only a matter of time until more and more of these show up in the food industry. Generally.
I would expect we'll see more as well here. Like in Germany, for example, you do have, of course, this one with the water plastic bottles or the glass bottles where you get automatically charged, and in order to recover the money,
it's the same.
you would need to go and that's been there for a while, and it works really well. And actually, I was very surprised when I moved to Germany to see how many young people as well just collect bottles for weeks, from parties they throw out and whatnot, and then just carry the bottles to the local supermarket or mega Image equivalent, right?
Yes.
And then just kind of feed it to the machine and take a coupon that they use at the cashier on the way out.
Yeah. So you've seen that a long time ago, right? In Germany?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very widely adopted. So what about the key trends and opportunities in the niche markets? What sort of trends do you see in the food convenience space?
So I definitely see more people becoming more aware and conscious of what they eat. People want to eat healthier food, and even the regulation or people being conscious of what they're eating as well. Even regulations, last year they introduced a new law where you have to put on every product the ingredients and the calories and so on. And so people are becoming more knowledgeable about these kinds of things. And that's one thing, that's one opportunity and a trend that's happening that anyone can take advantage of, because people leaning towards healthier foods mean more healthy food should be available in the market. And I think Romania is one of the markets that don't necessarily have a lot of options on healthy food. There's a few companies doing great stuff, but I think there's a lot more that can be done. Other trends and opportunities, I would say this is like the keyword that everyone's talking about, AI, right? AI can be a big thing in food delivery in the sense of personalization. Because if you want to outsource the food chore to another service provider or a company, then you want to have it's like the way we see it is, when you outsource it, it's like the kitchen away from your home, or your chef outsourced, because you want someone to do the food that you would want to eat, but they do it somewhere outside and they just bring it to your house. And so this interaction with the website or the app needs to become excellent for you to adopt it very well. And AI here can be a big accelerator to this. They can personalize the experience. The app can know what kind of food you like, what kind of personalization you like, what kind of diet you're on. So the more the app and the data knows about you, the more they can offer you
exactly what you want when you want it.
Exactly. That's another thing. Like HelloFresh have done this very well. They've been using AI for a while, and I think that's another. Now with ChatGPT and an AI tool coming up every single day on the market, there's a lot more. It's becoming more widely available for other companies to just use API with some of these services and provide this enhancement in the experience to the consumer.
All right, so what about dietary preferences or allergens? Do you see a big trend in that?
Again, people are definitely becoming more aware, and the options for allergens and dietary preferences are becoming more widely available. When I was living in Dubai, and I used to travel a lot to other surrounding countries like Saudi and Kuwait, we were seeing that a lot of restaurants are opening up, and a lot of them are offering very niche diet, let's say a vegan store or a keto store, or like all these kinds of customer specific needs. Over here, we don't see that yet widely available. Maybe there's a few that are on the market, but this is becoming, customers are becoming more and more aware of this. And so the demand for this is starting, and I think it's only a matter of time before the supply side catches up, either from existing companies that are providing consumers with these needs, or new companies that take this up as a problem in the market and try to solve it.
What do you believe will be the biggest growth drivers in the industry?
The biggest one will be all the talk that we've had about convenience, which is people opting for convenience and seeing convenience as something more necessary or more, let's say, has more benefit than what they thought it had. This trend is going to be one of the big growth drivers of this whole niche or industry of the meal planning, because there's a lot of companies here that are already doing it, and they're all positioned well for this growth. So, and when the time comes for the customer demand and need accelerating, then since the supply side is ready, it's going to be a growth driver in this industry.
So looking forward in the next 3 or so years, how do you see Manj evolving? What will be the priorities for your company?
So the first priority is to provide the best experience possible to the customer. And this is what I told you before, from the application and the website to the food delivery experience and the timing you would get the food, to the diversity of the foods and having more and more products to choose from that are, let's say, that come from different texture or categories. Because it's very easy for me, if I offer sarmale, which is these cabbage rolls in Romania, it's very easy for me to add one extra sarmale with a different flavor, but that's not called diversity. Diversity is when you can create a new kind of product that doesn't exist in your existing portfolio. So doing that, making sure taste is always consistent. So if you do all of those right, and this is what we're striving for, and these are the, let's say, the strategic points that we're trying to tackle one by one, then we are better equipped and positioned to expedite the penetration rate of our company in the market. That's one. Another one is expand the number of solutions that we provide. Today we provide one solution, which is homemade cooked food to mothers and families who want to outsource their cooking. Okay, but what kind of cooking is the Romanian homemade cooked traditional food? But there's also other kinds of foods that people eat. Like if you eat pasta at home, that's not a traditional homemade Romanian, but people still are eating that. Or if you do a steak, or if you do noodles, or all of that. So there's a lot of other needs in the market that we are not tackling today that we want to target and we want to tackle, because if we want to become a primary source of food for people, we need to be able to provide them with different kinds of solutions and not just one.
So where you're saying this is almost the melancholic food that you're providing
Yes.
today, and you could look into the exploring new cultures and new food and new tastes, say Vietnamese or Indian or
Exactly.
whatnot, right?
Exactly.
And then kind of catering for the needs of diversity. So that's where you see growth coming.
Yes. That's another one.
Will you focus on Romania, or are you looking to expand internationally?
That's the third one.
Okay, then.
That was coming.
There you go.
So the third one is geographic expansion. Now, geographic expansion can be split into two. One is national expansion. We are today in Bucharest and Ploiești, which is a city very close to here, but we want to expand in other larger cities in Romania. And then the step beyond that would be an international expansion. But that's not today. It's more Romania expansion, and then after that, it can be international.
And do you see this concept in the way you've done it now is more easily scalable in neighboring countries in Eastern Europe, for example? Or would you say, okay, France, Germany, US, whatever it is, we're going to find what their melancholy food is, and that's fine, and the concept is scalable. How do you see that?
So there's two ways of looking at this.
Yeah.
One way is looking at what countries have similar characteristics to Romania. Because this concept of homemade bulk food, personalized, is not available everywhere. Like if we did a lot of searches in neighboring countries, and it's not there. And if you want to penetrate those markets, you need to know first why it was able to successfully be built here, and how can you replicate it in countries with similar characteristics to Romania. So that's one. That's, I think, the bigger point. Another point that you can look at is where are countries that have a lot of Romanians, and go there with the food that you have, right? But this is a question for later.
Okay, so right now you're focusing on nailing down,
Exactly.
providing more food to more Romanians.
Better food with better experience to more Romanians in Bucharest and in Romania. And then the next step would be, okay, what's next?
Yeah, all right, cool. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
We'll all be watching now to see how that goes. And I might just try my first first order.
I insist on that.
Perfect. So it seems like if I were to really summarize a little bit what we talked about today, food convenience is here to stay. An increase in the adoption, but quite slow in some markets, including Romania, with only 2% penetration today, right? So overcoming the challenges of awareness of the options, helping people see the benefits of it, and then, trying to provide better food, more food to these consumers is, what this niche market is focused on in the future.
Yes, 100%.
All right, cool. Sounds like a very exciting challenge ahead, actually.
Yes, it's been an exciting ride, and I can see that the road ahead is as challenging, but also as fun or even more fun. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rami. This has been really wonderful. Where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I think LinkedIn and Twitter are the most active, let's say, social media profiles I'm keeping.
Perfect. So we'll add in the description your contact details as well as some more information about Manj in case you want to try it yourself.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me. It was great.